All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today for a very special event. On behalf, my name is Danny Whaley, and I am the director of the Center for the Study of Muslim and Arab Wars. We're very, very fortunate today to have special guest speakers and a panel who is going to talk to us about something that is very, very important happening in our nation. The amount of polarization, the amount of hate, the amount of division is across the board, not only for Muslims, but actually in political terms, in religious terms, and our nation today is at a crossroad. Do we sit and talk to one another? Do we understand each other's heritage, backgrounds, viewpoints, or do we go into conflicts? The world today is more sensitive, is more vulnerable, is more dangerous today than it was in the past. We hope our international affairs, what's happening from Russia to China to the United States, to places in Africa and even Central and South America, do not lead humanity into self-destruction. I'm going to make it very, very brief, and let me start today. First of all, of thanking the Center for sponsoring this event, and also thanking our producers and two of our main characters in the film for having come all the way from the Midwest, the beautiful Midwest, to come here and then share their experience with us. They were here on a tour, and we're so fortunate that they gave San Bernardino their time to come all the way here. Let me also tell you about the format of today's event. But maybe we start, and I do apologize, I should have started, to do a land acknowledgement here in San Bernardino. We recognize that the campuses of Cal State San Bernardino, both San Bernardino and the Palm Desert office, as you know, for some of you, that we have two campuses, part of Cal State University San Bernardino. So both of these locations sit on unceded indigenous ancestral homeland. For our San Bernardino campus, which is here, it is the land of the Gabrieleno or Tongva people, the Shemehuevi or the Nuwo peoples, the Serrano, the Ma'ara Yam people, and the federally recognized land of the Yuha'a Viatam of the San Manuel Nation. For the Palm Desert campus, because we have some people who are joining us also online, it is the land of the Cahuila, and the Cahuila people and the federally recognized land of the Agua Caliente band of Cahuala Indians. We recognize that every member of the CSUSB community has benefited and continues to benefit from the use and occupation of this land since the institution's founding in 1965. Consistent with our values and community and diversity, we are responsible for acknowledging and making the university's relationship with indigenous people visible. By offering this land acknowledgement, we affirm indigenous sovereignty and will work to hold California State University San Bernardino more accountable to the needs of our American Indians and indigenous people. By the way, just for the clarification, this land acknowledgement has been developed by indigenous people with the oversight and approval of tribal leaders from these respective tribes to ensure that Native Americans and indigenous collaboration is clear in our higher education. Just to tell you the format of today, we're going to watch this very nice short film, which was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Short Documentary. After that, we are going to invite our colleague and friend, Professor Eche Algan, who's going to come and moderate the panel. She's going to introduce our panelists and also open it for question and answers. Without further delay, let's start the film. And for those who are joining us online, please hold on to your questions till another half an hour. The film is short, it's inspiring, it's energetic, and it ends on a very hopeful note. Let's watch it.
Most of the time when I tell people this story, they tell me that they don't believe me and that I'm making it up, that it's not true. When I was younger, he was amazing. He He was just always there for me when I needed someone. You always hear about mass murders and how terrifying they are. But you can never really imagine that hurtful and harmful person to be in the same house as you.
I like an American country music. I mean, just the quietness and the soothing. I mean, I don't know how many kind they are. There is just one that I listen. It's just the background, country music. I listen to that. It kind of relaxes me.
The country music, it seems to me it's coming from the heart, how you feel about the society or the community, wherever you live, and to express those feelings in a very simple and straightforward way.
I felt I became American, I think after maybe 5 years. After I learned that language, I was in school. I had the second child born. I became very comfortable with my life.
I felt as an American probably early on, and the community also embraced me without any hesitation.
I came to Muncie in 1986 as a refugee. I was living in the refugee camp in Pakistan due to the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan. Lived there for 6 years. Then I got engaged with my husband there, and then he brought me 5 years later to the United States, and we got married in '86.
I am a family physician here in Muncie, Indiana. The pictures of my children are in each room. I treat my patient as my family. So I tell my patient that I came by choice, and I appreciate the refugee status, that I came as a refugee. And then I tell them they are my family, because if something happening to me, my family is far away. They will be coming to my rescue.
How would people describe me? I would probably say that they would describe me as strong and stubborn. They would describe me as a mom, because my main goal is to raise my daughter to be a strong young woman. When I first met Mac, there was no doubt that he was a jarhead. One of the things I loved about him was his commitment to, ironically enough, to his country. Mac and I had a long-distance relationship for just over a year. I decided to introduce him to Emily. I said, this is going to be the deciding factor, because if she's not good, Mom's not good.
She wanted to make sure that I was going to have a good father figure in my life for later on. And so we moved to Muncie all together when I was 5, and he just was my dad from there on.
Their relationship was very close. They liked to go a lot of different places together, go fishing. He let her drive his car.
We both called each other our road dogs, because we would just go everywhere together and just hang out all the time when I was really young. He was amazing.
How did killing people change you?
Never really told that. Hold on a second, man. happy kid. I had friends. I liked to run the streets. In high school, I'd gotten in a lot of trouble. My biggest downfall is I was involved in drugs, both using and selling. It made life harder on me. Made school it did make school impossible. I joined the Marines at 18. I saw it as a respect thing. My dad came from nothing. Big family, poor. He had quit school, joined the military, and he did 4 years in the Marine Corps. By me joining the military, not only the military, but the Marine Corps, and going through some of the same stuff he went through, I figured I'd get his respect. I didn't have it, but I knew it would get me away from what I was doing. I was in the military for a long time, around 25 years. Towards the end of my military career, I was a totally different person. The fact of being involved in so many deaths over years, it was a crazy time, man. I don't even know. I probably would have been committed if they would have actually known the way I was acting. One time I had a discussion with a higher ranking person about coping. He looked me straight in the eye. He says, "Mac, you're on the range, you're shooting at a paper target. As long as you can look at them as anything but human, you won't have any problems." I said, "Oh, okay, that makes sense, yeah. And that's what I did.
I'm a very family-oriented person. I love family. I'm a Williams, so the Williams family go way back here in Muncie. My great-great-grandfather was lynched and was castrated, and so I grew a dislike towards white people. It was so bad. I was 21 years young, long time ago, when I first came into the religion. The community was beautiful. I never experienced anything like that, the closeness of anything until I came to this community.
The story I was told for starting the Islamic Center was that it was my dad and two other Muslim brothers that were kind of the kickstarters of the mosque. And so an Afghan, a Syrian, and a Bangladeshi brother, that kind of unity to start a mosque through, from these different walks of life, different countries, different refugee stories, and to come together and create a mosque. So that's a beautiful thing. My parents are mountain movers, I would describe them as. Both come from very, very humble beginnings in Afghanistan. It was really always an open door at our house.
Just anyone who needed a place to stay, I would welcome them to stay with me from all walks of life. They will come to our house, I will wash their clothes and clean their clothes and cook for them.
My dad calls my mom the Mother Teresa of the Muslim community, and it's definitely true. It's in her DNA to just be that self-sacrificer, to really put her everything on the line to make even one person's life better.
I think 9/11 changed me and a lot of community members in a big way.
It was shocking. I couldn't believe it. We were just as devastated as anybody else, as any other American.
For me personally, it was very difficult to see that in the United States. As I say, we have come from those countries where there was killing, there were bombing, and just like you come here as you live in a peace, seeing that was very difficult for me personally.
I had some discrimination. You can tell when we went out, people looked at us a little bit differently. People saw us a little bit differently.
Go back to your country, that you have towel on your head, just making these remarks, it really hurts you.
When I moved to Muncie, I started to notice some things with his behavior that I hadn't earlier. Usually when he would talk about the things that happened, it was when he would drink or he would be really sad.
Military career ended with me getting injured, and it started a cycle of events. Living in Muncie, now I was being forced to see people that I considered an enemy every time I went out the door.
We would, go to Walmart and you walk down the aisle and start to go down an aisle and I would see a woman in hijab and would intentionally divert our path.
This is my story. This is my country, my city. Got to the point to where I just wanted to do harm to them.
I guess I just held on to the hope, that being in a loving relationship would help him move away from the anger and the hatred that he had. I never thought in a million years that he would consider doing anything to anyone.
I started thinking, between being drunk and sober, I was brainstorming, how can I make this right? My country's done with me, but I'm not done with it. I would die for that cloth. Gladly. So I came up with a plan. I said, okay, not an explosive expert by no means, but I knew enough to make a bomb. Let me find a good place where I think I can get the most bang for my buck. My plan was to detonate an IED right outside the Muncie Islamic Center on a Friday afternoon when they were all gathered, and I was hoping for at least 200 or more dead, injured, at least. That was my goal, 200 or more. I knew I'd get caught. My DNA's on a national data bank. I was good with that. I wanted to be in court. I wanted to make my statements. I wanted to tell people, yes, I did this.
There was this boy at my school, and his mom came to pick him up, and she was in this long dress with long sleeves and a full head covering that only showed her eyes, and I was really confused by that because I had never seen that before, and I was wondering why I couldn't see anything of her. And I went home that day and told my dad about it, and he flipped out.
This little Muslim kid, future terrorist, sat across from my daughter. I blew up. At the end, I actually went into my room and just broke down and cried. I let these people get close to my family.
I was just very confused and probably scared of why he was just freaking out over what this woman was wearing, and it just seemed so weird to me and strange. And I looked at him like, what are you going on about, you crazy, crazy man?
When I have a little girl sitting in front of me, looking at me like I'm crazy, questioning, man, I really love this guy or not? This little girl's my world, man. And I can't have that happen. I need her love. So I said, okay, I know I'm right. These people were killers. And I knew that in order to be able to stand and face my daughter about this, about what I have planned, I need to be able to show her proof. I need to be able to show the rest of the world proof. So I went to the Islamic Center to get the proof. I didn't wanna be with these people, because if I walk inside this building, I might not come out.
When I first saw him, I was driving down the street, and then I was actually coming to the masjid. And when I saw him, he was walking kind of fast. His head was kind of down, kind of lower, you know, was kind of red in the face a little bit. Right? The guy knew something was wrong. Yeah.
So I walk in the building, and all of a sudden, it's like I felt my stomach tighten up, chest tighten up. I tried to keep my senses about me. I got very anxious. I didn't trust him. I considered myself somebody as a future news story on Al Jazeera. By the end of the night, I figured they would have me in the basement with a sword to my throat.
He just looked like this guy who had a lot on his mind, pacing back and forth. I remember saying, there's something not right with this guy.
He looks at me and I look at him. He smiles and he said, "Can I help you?"
My first impression of seeing him, I don't want to say like, was a little scary.
I looked around thinking about my plan, and I actually looked at individuals like, yep, he's gone. He's gone.
My first impression of McKinney was he seemed to be like a redneck. So it was somewhat scary in the beginning, but he came to the masjid and he's like a guest also. So I couldn't help it except to hug him and make him feel, not artificially, from my heart, that he is welcome and he is part of us.
To this day, that still doesn't make any sense to me. To this day. These people kill non-believers for sport. It's what they do. It's in their book. He sits at my feet. He hugged my leg. This guy doesn't know me. Hugged my leg. That was pretty heavy. They don't even know the truth.
That is one of my duty. When you say salam to somebody, salam, what that means to tell this other person that you are safe from me. There will be no danger from me.
I just wanted to die. That's all I wanted. I wanted the peace, man. I needed to stop the voices. I needed to stop the noise. And I just wanted the peace.
Somehow, I believe that he was genuine, and he has issue. All of us have issue in the military, post-traumatic stress syndrome, whatever that might be, or some other thing, and maybe he's looking for a solution. He's looking for a solution. And if you can be a solution for him, for some of his stresses, why not to be extra kind to him?
I comforted him. I gave him the attention. I think that's the basic memory that I have. Not only just with Mac, I would do this with any guest.
These people were just plain old pleasant. Happy to be alive. Happy to be in America. Just happy. And more than happy to talk to me.
I personally believe that we need to be kind to those people even more. The people like, sometimes like they might have some difficulty, some concern, some stress. I personally believe that we should be more kind to those than people who are successful or who are already know what they're doing.
He can't completely forgive himself for the things that he did.
What are you thinking about?
just how he thought he was doing the right thing and doing it for the right reasons, and how much he sacrificed and how much he suffered for the things that he was asked to do.
Actually, when he came back, I was surprised to see him come back. Yes, he came, not that same day, but he came back like the next day and so forth. Started hanging around the masjid more, coming to prayer, coming to the dinners.
I think it was probably one of the first times in a while where he felt like he was just a part of something like that was bigger. He probably had been missing that part of his life for a while.
We'll talk about his wife, we'll talk about his daughter, we'll talk about his tours he had in other countries. I thought they were very interesting because he came from an environment where he was killing Muslims. He was at war with Muslims, right? In his mind, right? So I was able to understand.
He definitely wanted to be a part of the community, and he felt welcome, and it was really kind of bizarre because he was hugging the people that he wanted to choke.
The more time I spent around him, the more I started to change. I spent so long in the military, man. I had this band of brothers, if you want to call it. It was gone. We'd been disbanded. There was no more. It's funny, I had a dream that I was on the range and I had shot a paper target. And instead of just a hole being put in that target, the target started bleeding. And I went down and I wiped off the blood. It wouldn't stop. That target would not stop bleeding. Blood was just flowing from the target. That's when I really felt things were about to change. It took 8 weeks to change my mind. It took 8 weeks to remove all of that hatred, all of that planning, all of everything out of my heart. I said, I need to be a Muslim.
I got off the bus one day from school and I see all of these people standing outside my house in like FBI like coats and jackets and stuff like that. They were looking for something and I didn't know what that something was.
We went to the apartment where Mr. McKinney was residing at that point in time, went up to Mr. McKinney's door, knocked on his door, and Mr. McKinney answered.
They came and they questioned me. They asked if I mind if they would bring a bomb dog to the house. Absolutely, you come right ahead. It had been disposed of. It doesn't exist anymore.
We talked to him for a little bit longer, the FBI agent did. Felt like Mr. McKinney wasn't really a credible threat at that point in time, that he wasn't going to put anything into action at that point in time.
I never thought in a million years. I felt kind of foolish because I didn't recognize that was even a potential that he had.
It's still kind of hard for me to even wrap around my head that my dad would have been known as a mass murderer.
One of the members came to me and asked me, do you know that Richard was planning to do this? I cannot believe that this is what I heard. That was the time I invited him over for dinner. And I asked him, I said, what in the world were you thinking, Richard?
I remember like being amazed, like what? He wanted to do what? I remember asking, what was the deal, man? What was going on through your head? What was your problem, man?
He didn't know anything better. That's exactly what he said. Sister Bibi, what if I had met you, meeting somebody like you, if I had that much understanding, I would have never thought about this.
You showed me the right way. You showed me what true humanity is about. Just put Islam aside for a second. You showed me what true humanity was about.
Go get him!
When Mac went to the mosque and the way he was treated, the way he was embraced, it did save his life. It saved the lives of the community. Had they turned him away, had they treated him differently, it would be a whole different story than what he has to tell now.
Oh, I love the man. Mac is a great man. Mac is a good person. Now, I have someone here who will definitely protect us if something happened to us.
I do see Richard as my little brother, and who came to the center, and then he needed that support.
So anyway, I appreciate everyone. I just want you to know that each and every one of you, even the ones that are not here, will always be in my heart. Thank you.
I could never, in a million years, could never repay this community what they've given me. I see a lot of my actions now as a making of amends. Surah 5, 32nd verse in the Quran. To kill one human being is as if you killed all of humanity. But to save one human being is as if you saved all of humanity. I hope the day comes when I can forgive myself. Maybe.
Islam was definitely a positive change for Mac. And I ultimately supported that change, but it wasn't, it wasn't the right choice for me. Even though we're not married anymore, I still care about him. I hope that he finds forgiveness for himself and that he can be happy.
I love my dad. He's still an amazing dad. He always likes to tell me dad jokes, which I absolutely despise, yet I love at the same time, but I won't tell him that.
Yes, I think. Oh, bit of an echo. All right. Well, my name is Eja Algan, and it does echo. My name is Eja Algan, and I'm a professor of media studies at California State University San Bernardino campus. On behalf of my colleagues and board members at the Center for the Muslims and Arab Worlds, I am so pleased and honored to welcome our guests and thank them for this wonderful, touching documentary and for being here to talk about it, answer our questions. First, I would like to introduce them. We got to know them from the documentary, but I'd like to read their bios so we can get to know them even more. Mohanad Malas is the co-founder of IRA Capital, a successful real estate investment firm, and he serves on the board of trustees of the University of California, Irvine, and the Claremont Graduate University in Claremont, California. He is a founding board member of the UCI Beal Applied Innovation, which provides an ecosystem for tech startups. He recently established the nonprofit M Film Lab to help hone the skills of American minority scriptwriters. Stranger at the Gate is not Mr. Malas's first film that received an Academy Award nomination. His short film, The Present, was also nominated for an Academy Award in 2020. Bibi Bahrami was born and raised in Behzud, Afghanistan. She came to Muncie, Indiana in 1986 as a refugee during the Soviet war in Afghanistan to join her husband, Dr. Bahrami. Ms. Bahrami has been a community activist for over 30 years. After learning English and earning her GED, she went on to receive an art degree from Ball State University. In 2002, she founded and became president of her own nonprofit organization, Awaken, which stands for Afghan Women and Kids Education and Necessities. So she could give back to the Afghan women and children she left behind. And I was also told recently that she works hard to help Afghani refugees in the United States as well. So I'd like to ask her about her work as well. Richard McKinney is an ex-US Marine who, after 25 years of service, returned home to Muncie, Indiana. Mr. McKinney went on to become the president of the Muncie Islamic Center for 2 years and is now an active community leader. He has spoken across the country and serves as a skills coach at the largest community mental health center in Indiana, which is such an important work. So thank you for doing that. I'm going to keep, unfortunately, checking my cell phone because that is how those of you who are attending the event through YouTube and Zoom are sending questions. Please, if you have any questions, go ahead and text your questions through Zoom and YouTube, and I will receive them here. All right, first I would like to ask Mr. Malas about, so it seems you came into film production later in your career, and first of all, why? Why did you choose to become a film producer, and why in particularly you chose to support this film, produce this film?
Thank you. It's multiple questions in one question, but I'll be happy to. The idea here is we have a lot of talent in our community, and there's so many stories that need to be told. And I found very often that the talent is out there, and very often it takes a whole chain of people to produce a film, from the script writers to the actors to the directors to the you know, I mean, it's a whole cycle, and if you don't have an executive producer, which is actually somebody that is helping to fund the talent and make the project come into a film, it won't get done. And there's so many such beautiful stories that are out there. So it was an opportunity to say, this is a cause that is well worthy following, because there's so many stories out there, authentic stories, that are not being told, that should be told. And I like to mention the African proverb that says, the hunter will always be glorified until such time that the lion can speak or write. Because only stories we're going to hear are the hunters. And there's all these other stories that need to be told. And that was part of my effort to do that.
Thank you. Such a beautiful answer. Well, I'd like to ask Mr. McKinney about, like, how, first of all, maybe how did you agree to be involved with the film and tell your story? Because it is, you know, putting oneself out there is not easy, especially in this kind of context. And so that's kind of, I'm curious about that. And I'm also wondering whether or not your idea about patriotism has changed at all, or how it has evolved, what it means to be a patriot in the United States.
Thank you. Both very good questions. It's actually a really long story about how this whole journey started. Years ago, I was invited to be a part of an internet series called The Secret Life of Muslims. It's run out of a production company. It's called Smarty Pants Productions. So I got an email from this company. Oh.
Is the mic on?
So I got an email from this company, and of course I thought it was a scam at first, because Smarty Pants Productions, this does not sound legit. But I researched it, and it was. I was happily surprised. And I agreed to it because the whole thing was, this happened for a reason, happened for a purpose. This is a message that needs to be told to people only, or if nothing else, on the premise that change is possible. There's a lot of change that needs to take place. Oh, there you go. How's that? Oh, wow. There's a lot of change that needs to take place in the world right now. But change only starts from within. Starts from within before it can go to the outside. So we made the film. It was 5.5 minutes. It actually ended up airing on CBS Sunday Morning. And so the story, which at that time was just about me, it got a lot of strength and a lot of backing, which ended up turning into the one you just seen. And me and Josh Seftel, the producer, had talked about it many times. I says, you know, this story is more than just about me. The story is about a whole lot of people. I said, there were so many players in this game that, you know, they need to be acknowledged, and they need to be able to tell their side of everything. And so he finally put together Stranger at the Gate. And that's the end of that, really. I mean, well, it's the beginning of that, I should say. It's still going. We're still pushing the message. My idea of patriotism has definitely changed over the years. I was asked one time how hard it was for me to switch from Christianity to Islam. And I said, well, I was never a Christian. And I say that because I have a lot of respect for Christianity. The way I was acting, the way I was speaking, the way I was thinking, that was not Christian. That was not Christian-like in any way. I would never say I was a Christian because of that. So I turned myself as a nationalist. For lack of a better example, the flag was my cross. And I would do anything and everything to make sure every day that flag rose high. And I saw things as indicators that It might not happen every day. The Muslim population in America is one of the things I saw that might hurt that. I consider myself a patriot, wholeheartedly. But as we've seen over the years, the word patriotism has taken a hit. It doesn't mean the same thing anymore. Some people really don't even understand what it means. January 6th taught us that we're really not better than any other nation. We have our problems, and they're big. So, my ideal patriotism is a belief that we can get better. Because we've shown throughout our history how we came from nothing and made something here in this country. But we only did that because of people not from this country. Now, I don't really know if that makes any sense to anybody, but my belief in patriotism is going back to the beginning. Rebuilding with the mindset that we're going to make something better. Maybe someday we can get better, hopefully.
Thank you. Ms. Ms. Bahrami, there are so many questions I want to ask about Afghanistan. But maybe if, I also want to be cognizant of the fact that we have questions from the floor and online. But if you could tell us about your work with the Afghani refugees here, and also what you are observing, experiencing in terms of what is going on in Afghanistan right now, because I'm afraid with all the wars and political situation that we're facing at the moment, we have forgotten already about Afghanistan, and we should not.
Thank you.
So if you could tell us about your work, what does Awaken?
Sure, thank you. Is this working?
I hear you.
Oh, that one? Yeah. Okay. Hania, good afternoon, I think, right now, to all of you. Thank you so much for having us over, and I'm very proud of this university and the effort and the leadership for making a lot of great things happening in this area and maybe throughout the United States with your largest university effort. We're very blessed to have you guys. My effort in my own community, after 9/11, I started a nonprofit organization. I gave up on news and media, and it was hurting me a lot. And that nonprofit in the community had great support. And when the refugee came to Indiana, 7,000 refugees in Camp Atterbury, and I was contacted by many people, what do we do? How can we help? They know about Awaken's work. And then I started a subcommittee, I call a meeting to entire community, starting from right, left, black, white, I mean, all of them, like churches and leadership, hospital leadership, president. I said, I need your help. There is a great need of resettlement. Instead of individual doing their donation, this is one of my dream projects that we can all support the same project. Instead of bringing 5 families, we can bring 25 families. That was my goal. And we brought 37 families and 137 some people, individual, and children. By saying that, we started with one committee that tells you about the community, how they came on board. It was all volunteer. And we raised money under Awaken, my nonprofit organization, dedicated for the refugees. And we opened separate account for that. And we were able to raise in my small community. That's what I'm saying. When your heart is there, when your effort, things are possible. And almost $400,000 under Awaken for these refugees' family. We provided 6 months support, housing, food,
anything they needed were applying for their benefits from the government. We did not get any federal grant. And involving the community, I was telling my mayor that everybody benefits. We had over 500 jobs open. Factories were closing because nobody wants to work, especially after COVID, unfortunately. It's been very difficult to find employees. I'd say we will all benefit from this, and we have. And he's so proud of it. From one committee, we had 12 committees, and I was the chairwoman overseeing all 12 committees, and they were all doing an amazing job. And some nutritious, education, employment, and health. There was so many different missions, the holistic approach to cover everything. And on top of that, we had a welcome family for each family that was very unique, and that connection will last forever with these families, and they're very grateful to have that connection with everybody have the welcome family, and some even have grandparents there, which is beautiful. And these people have gone through so much trauma and difficulties, not only in Afghanistan, but coming here and staying in the camp for months. I was the contact person in the camp. I would talk to them for months and a month or 6 weeks before they come. They have gone through so much in the camp with one pair of clothes and nothing else. Basically, they were suffering so much. Anyway, that's what we did, and we were totally blessed to be able to assist them and bring them to our community, and brought the Muncie community, Muncie city on the map of Indiana. It was not there. Everybody was contacting us, and what is your model and what is your secret that you guys were able to bring those many families? Like big city, we're not able to bring 1 or 2 families, and what do we do? But it was truly the unity and the intention, with a good intention and hard work, and that's what we were able to accomplish. And we continue to serve them and give them incentive. For even self-sufficiency, we send them to driving classes and even give some incentive toward the purchase of a car, which we were truly, truly blessed. That's my refugee side.
And if I may just add, I think this is admirable, but the fact that Bibi went and spent from the film 6 years in a refugee camp. So I think this is talking about giving back, talking about when we come to the United States, the land of opportunity.
Exactly.
She's able to understand the needs and the wants. And I think that her leadership is just admirable in being able to deliver based on her experience. So
Thank you so much. And I think that's why I could relate to them and I could understand them. And I think going to the forgotten side, when Taliban first came to Afghanistan, and we had a difficult time, and when we were finally able to defeat Soviet Union with the help of the United States and many other countries, and then at that time, Afghanistan is the size of Texas. It was very tangible to be fixed, and if the effort was continuing, sometimes we have our own agenda, but we didn't continue through, unfortunately. And the Iraq situation happened, and Afghanistan was left behind, and that's why ISIS were coming, Taliban were coming. Anybody could just play because there was no, unfortunately, power and strength and leadership there. And now, what my dear, I forgot my dear sister's name, mentioned that Afghanistan is being forgotten again because the Soviet did the same thing to us. When they did this to Ukrainian, all these memories coming to me that I lost my dearest brother. He was born after many girls. He was very dear to us. That he was killing my grandfather, my brother-in-law, my cousin during the Soviet invasion. And when I see the Ukrainian, that's the same thing. They did to us, but now Afghanistan got forgotten and the attention is there. It's very sad what's happening there. It's hurting us. But Afghanistan also needs support. People are starving right now. We're distributing food in many rural areas. There's no jobs. And recently, so many kids went even to Turkey and Iran and many countries. They're running away from home because there's nothing there for them. I just know a widow, kind of far cousin. Her husband was killed, and she had the son growing up. And they sell some of the land and send him to Turkey so that he can go and make some living. There's nothing for them. And I think he was there for a year, or I don't know how much time. He was put in jail because he went not legally, unfortunately. They take money from you. And last week, we heard the news that he died from hunger for whatever, they brought his body home. That widow, and it's very difficult situation in Afghanistan, especially for the women and children who are left behind. Sometimes the husband is gone and the children are left and the women are suffering greatly. And that's my passion for these women. So I started the Afghan women and kids education. They have suffered through Soviet invasion. They lost their husband or their father or their brother. They were left behind with no education. That's why I started this organization to help them. And at this point, it's tough. We're distributing food. If you just keep them in your prayers, if you can support, it's awakeninc.org on the website and share the information with the rest of the community. I appreciate that.
So sorry for your past and recent loss.
Thank you.
And thank you for sharing with us. Right, I think at this point, before the next round of questions, if there are any questions from the floor, I'd like to.
Anybody has any questions? Professor Muhtasib, I think you had a question.
I have a question, but let's look
Hello, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. My question is actually sort of maybe a part two of Professor Algan's question around patriotism. What was really compelling about this story is, as an anthropologist, we're really interested in sort of the intimate stories and the larger picture that they connect to. And so for me, watching this, the other central character almost in this film that was sort of the backdrop is American militarism, right? As sort of a central part of what shapes our relationships to each other. And so, I was blown away by how much foreign policy or, American foreign policy shapes just the intimate day-to-day interactions within a city or a mosque or what have you. So I'm just curious how you're seeing this project kind of shape that larger narrative in the country around, just this morning, there was an imam who was stabbed in New Jersey, right? So clearly this is still ever present. And so I guess that's what I'm interested in, maybe experience showing this film in different audiences, if you've gotten reception from people in positions of, in political positions, if you've, showcased this to people who work in, who are in the Army or Navy or what have you. So yeah, I'm just curious sort of how you're thinking about this intimate story as connected to this larger project of, America and America more broadly.
Was that me? Oh, okay.
I don't know. I could personally, maybe brother can add how this was done. I'll just give you my background, why this was so dear to my heart to participate in this. After 9/11, obviously, we have gone through a lot. It was a lot of wake-up call for us and trying our best. And also, like our humanity, we need to be more awake and alert. And my family kind of like took it upon ourselves right away to be proactive and to be on a preventing measure in educating people and constantly going to churches and talking. But when this opportunity came, I just had come back from a health issue. I had a coma, and Josh Saftel, who was the director, contacting me that I'm the current president of the Islamic Center. If we can do this documentary, even though we did the short in 2009, this happened, and he contacted me in 2021, actually, and that we want to do this on a community base, if you can help us. And I prayed about it. I said, no, this message, I said, why are you doing it? And he said he wants to do it because there's so much happening in our country. Besides Islamophobia, he has witnessed his Muslim friends have gone through so much. And he himself has gone to anti-Semitism and difficulty that he truly can relate to that. And now there's so much hate, so much crime, so much shooting in our country, so much division, this messages will help. I'd say, okay, Josh, that's very dear to my heart, and I will support it even though my health condition is not good. My son was home taking care of me. That's why he's in the documentary. I'm blessed with 6 children, but he was there. And I said, well, my son said he will help. I said, even if this message could be seen by one person impact, even if I die again, this message could live. That was based on a good intention and followed by hard work and, of course, respect surrounding. And I think I was telling even Brother Richard that it's his responsibility to be sharing this message with the militaries everywhere. And Josh Saftal, I've been telling us, please, this is the original message, why we did this and why my family took part in this. This was the mission, to be shared with every part of the world that we can. And I think 75,000, the race, what is that, Facing Project, 75,000 teachers are on board on this and showing it to, of course, the school, the high school, and the university. We have so many showing, and we've been going through a lot of universities that they have a screening. But again, as you say, this message we could do in local community where I was doing, but again, this is mashallah getting bigger to other communities. And with all of your effort and contribution and hearing this and sharing this message will continue growing and benefiting people. And not only this, it could be added even more stories that my dear brother Malas, that he is supporting these great causes. And there is so much need for these causes to be supported and to be shown. I mean, we see some people like they have written books about this. I mean, we lost millions of people in Afghanistan. Do you read books about it? No. When I started my organization and tried to bring awareness, people were thanking me. They're good people in this world. It's a beautiful country full of opportunity. We're very grateful for this beautiful opportunity, but we also we owe it to them to contribute, to make an impact, to make it better, to share stories and to support it, whether it's financially or physically or mentally, whatever way we can. That's kind of my take on that, and anybody else have to say something about it?
Yes. So, to expand on what Sister Bibi said, this has become my mission, possibly my final mission. I believe that all of this happened as a plan. It was God's plan. I don't know why I had to go through all of that before I could be here. But then again, we have to believe that some things are just out of our knowledge. It's not for us to know. I am going to do everything I can to take this message wherever I can. I have things working in my favor that others do not have. I'm an older, white veteran. That gets me in places where some of you, whether it be online or in the audience, don't have access to. I'm going to take advantage of that. You know, we call it things like white privilege. It's real, very real. But I'm going to take advantage of it, and I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it to get places where others can't. And so I started a company called From Hate to Understanding. What I hope to do with this is to facilitate open dialogue, to bring peoples together that normally would not come together. Because that's part of our problem. We don't talk. We text. We email. Now, granted, those things are very valuable and we have to use them. Absolutely. I'm not saying don't ever text again. No, that's crazy. I had my daughter text me one time in the house, "What's for dinner?" Seriously? But but we need to sit down. Let's sit down. Let's have tea. Let's drink some coffee. Let's talk. Because I believe everything has the possibility to change. There's a wise man said decades ago, and a line out of his speech became historical. I have a dream. Well, I have a plan. And it starts with a smile and a conversation, and it grows from there. You have to have dialogue with people. People you agree with and people you disagree with. You know, it says in the Quran that God made us into different nations and tribes so that we may learn from one another. Period. That was it. In a statement. We need to do that. We need to learn. You know, if you continue on the way you continue on, and I mean that not just individually towards the audience, but on a grander scale to the whole nation. You know, one thing I have definitely learned in my life is that if you do what you've always done, you will always be where you've always been. That, my friends, is a guarantee. You can send that to the bank. That will definitely be true. And it was for me for a long time. I was always that hateful person. I've been married several times because of that, because I was just not the right person. I'm not very proud of that at all. I've been hurt over the years. I've had death threats. I've had people say horrible things to me. And you know, I just smile. I keep one of the comments on my phone in my pictures so I can look at it every now and then. The things this person says is horrible. Absolutely horrible. And I answered him back. Sorry you feel that way. I love you for the sake of Allah. Period. That's it. Nothing else was ever said. A lot of people would say, don't answer them. Don't lead into that. No, I have to answer them. I have to. They have to know that I heard what they had to say. And because of who I used to be, I understand what they had to say. I don't like it anymore. I don't agree with it anymore, but I understand it. And that's just it. I'm not asking anybody to like something, to love something. I'm asking people to understand something. Because once you understand things, that hatred will go away. I mean, I hate things. I hate lima beans and the New England Patriots. That's it. Okay? But you got to understand things in order to move on. Ultimately, you are only hurting yourself and your progression in life.
There's a follow-up just on your question, if I may. Other than the message of understanding and overcoming hate, I think the part that I got to know also by talking to Mac is there's in the film it shows he talks about his band of brothers, shows the pictures, the people there, and I was just saying you've done this, you went through this transformation. What's happening with these other guys, your band of brothers that you were with? And I was shocked to find out from Mac that all or many of those guys actually ended up initially with PTSD, going to alcohol abuse, substance abuse, and in the end committing suicide. And I think you said, Mac, like all of those ended up committing suicide. So this is the other thing that needs to be seen, is that this is a serious problem, this is where understanding and communication becomes essential.
There are so many consequences and prices to be paid of our constant wars in the world, ours and of course all other countries. I think we have one more question from the floor.
It's too loud. Oh, okay. Thank you very much for coming here today and for being open, actually, to being vulnerable. That's amazing, very brave of you, and we really appreciate it. And I would like to acknowledge Dr. Khan's question, because that was on my mind. The film did not touch on the role of the empire, of course, and especially the military industry in creating those situations that you were describing earlier. You know, our role in destroying a lot of countries around the world, including Iraq and Afghanistan. So thank you for at least, you know, bringing this up. My question actually is related to what you just said about your white privilege. And it was on my mind watching the film, and this is my second time watching it. When the FBI came to see you, the film is not clear about why were they interrogating you, or did they come to pay you a visit, a friendly one? And the reason I ask if you could explain to us what happened during and after is because for me as a woman of color, you know, as a brown woman in the United States, I couldn't help but think if it were one of the racialized, minoritized brown people in the United States in your situation, the FBI probably would have locked that person, maybe for life. And so could you tell us what happened, and could you please address that since you mentioned your white privilege? And thank you. And just for students, please, if you have a question, don't be shy.
So, thank you, sister, for asking that. That's very good. That's a very good question, and that is something that needs to be explained a little bit better. So, I went to school after the military. I went to college. I do not have a high school diploma. I have 2 degrees. So, take with that what you will. Yeah. So as I'm in school, I started talking to one of my professors because being an older adult, I had a different relationship with my professors than a 20-something student, right? And all the life experience I've been through, you know. Sometimes I feel like I taught them things. And when we were talking, I don't know why, I opened up and told the story of, you know, who I used to be. And that professor was blown away, and she goes, "You have to tell people that story. That could change lives," she said. And I was like, really? I didn't think that much of it, right? And so she gave me her next class. I told my story in the next class. Someone in that class basically said, "Oh, he knows how to make a bomb and now he is a Muslim?" Oh, no. They called somebody. So I got the visit. And, you know, it's funny you said a friendly visit. Is there such thing as a friendly FBI visit? I don't know. I don't know.
Like it took you too long to come, so I assumed it was friendly.
Yeah, no. And it did take him a long time because nobody knew. Nobody knew. Now, I'm not a mastermind criminal, but I've seen enough suspense movies to know that the more people you involve in something you're doing, the more people will know about it. Nobody knew. I was like most husbands. I didn't tell my wife anything. She didn't know nothing of it, right? So it was a shock to everybody. And even after the fact, I didn't tell anybody until I was questioned by Bibi one time. So the FBI came to the house, and like my daughter said, you know, there I am. I'm out on the front lawn, sitting down. Bomb dogs going through the house. Now, I talked to the agent extensively, but and I explained to him, number one, who would keep this in their home? I'm sorry, I don't get that. That don't make any sense. And I even took him to the place it was. I kept it in a third location, you know, and explained it to him. But what got me through that was the fact that there was no evidence, because I had disposed of it. Because contrary to popular belief, now I'm a Muslim, I don't need a bomb. So I got rid of it. There's no evidence. So they did the investigation. They did a thorough investigation. My phone was tapped for a while. And then they just went on about their business. There was nothing to do. They closed the case. I did go to the masjid the first night that they came by, though, and kind of stuck out my chest. And, hey, I'm a real Muslim now. I've been investigated by the FBI. So, But yeah, nothing came of it for that reason. There was nothing to prove. Yeah.
And they also had come to our office, my husband's office, as the community leader and as a doctor there in the community, everybody knows. And they came to the office and make sure that the Muslim community was safe and that they feel safe around him, that he's okay. Because he was converted to Islam. And even when he converted, our Muslim community had a lot of fears that he still have his agenda. And that's why there was the time that I invited those people and invited him so that they have opportunity to openly ask, just to break the ice. And then when I asked him that question, and this is the rumor what I heard, is that true? And that's the time he told me. But anyway, they checked with even our office to make sure that the Muslim community is safe.
Put them on the spot.
We are nearing to the end of our event,
we
but
have?
maybe one last question.
Hi.
Yeah, make it clearer.
So I'm actually amazed by this story and how, like, at first you had a lot of hatred, but then you transitioned and you got rid of all that hate, and so you became Muslim, and here you are today. You know, like you said, someone texted you something very bad, and you responded, "I'm sorry you feel that way, but I love you for the sake of Allah." So, one question, was it mentally challenging to drive to the mosque for the first time with the bomb?
With the what?
With the bomb.
Oh, I never went to the mosque with the bomb. The bomb, I was waiting for a Juma service during Ramadan because I know most of them would be there.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, was it like mentally challenging, you know, to just think that you were going to go in there with the bomb and not come out?
Actually, no.
I think in the movie, it said that when you're going there, your chest was tightening up. That's probably
Because I didn't want to be around them. I was afraid of them. Okay? I mean, I even made a statement that I actually saw myself as a future news story on Al Jazeera in a video with a sword to my throat. I mean, I even think about that now. I can't even hardly not say that without giggling because it's so incredibly stupid to even think like that. But that's how I felt, and that's why I felt kind of very anxious. Yeah.
Thank you.
I just want to, quick follow-up, I know we're running out of time, that yesterday there was an interview with a British filmmaker, and I can't remember which channel, so I apologize. He made a new film actually about the FBI entrapping Muslims in terrorist plots. And he mentioned the number, he said he documented 100 cases of actually doing a plot. The FBI would do the plot and then would, have some vulnerable Muslim actually fall into it, and they would be locked in prison for a number of years. But he said that the actual number might be close to 300. So that's also why I asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
And when you said that the community was not trusting, probably, you've heard a lot of these stories when undercover FBI agents come to the mosques or, other people who want to harm the community. So I just wanted to comment on that because that was only yesterday that I saw that interview.
And then I think later on, the FBI had interest to come to the Islamic Center too. There was another sister, Muslim sister, that she had moved a couple of places, and she came to me that this is what's happening, and the FBI would like to come to the center. The way you go into the center, I said, oh, I'd love to invite them over. We have this dinner, and please invite them or give me their number. I will tell them that's who I am, And I would like to face it instead of just thinking about it. And they came and they had dinner with us. We talked to them in the open center, all the Muslim, all the nationalities, and just to cool it down. And I think that was it. I don't know, maybe they have heard several things, but one of the sisters was concerned that they're also checking on her, that why is she moving places? I'd say I would be happy to help and invite them over. Alhamdulillah, then that was the end of it.
There's one question that I keep thinking about it. I know we're out of time, but that's for Mr. McKinney. So your conversion from Christianity to Islam, was it about the Islamic Center in Muncie? Was it Sister Bibi and the whole community, or is it something about Islam, the values, or is it both? Like, what really made you switch your religion? That's such a big identity change. So, if you could elaborate on that.
Sure, sure. Well, as you remember, I was not a Christian. I was not a Christian. But yes, so the answer to those questions is yes, 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 and yes. Okay. When I first went in there, I was kind of taken aback because everybody's so nice. Why are they being nice to me? You know, I mean, I went in there and I introduced myself as somebody who just wanted to learn a little bit more about Islam. That's what I told them, right? So I'm kind of undercover in a way. And they ran with that. They showed me what Islam is. And that's what I tell Muslims today. Don't tell people about Islam. Show them. And then they handed me a Quran. And there's other advice I give to Muslims when speaking to non-Muslims that want to know about Islam. They handed me a Quran and said, read it. Come back when you got questions. And I did. I went back because I would find stuff in there and be like, yeah, that's it right there. There's my proof. And then they'd explain it. And I'd be like, wow, that's kind of like the Old Testament. All right. Yeah. And then I go back, and then I come back and read, and I go back. And during that time, I started building relationships. I was invited over to people's houses to eat. I always tell people, I used to weigh 190 pounds before I went to BB's. Right? Good cook. Oh, my gosh. But so it was a combination of all those things, you know, and in the education that I was getting about this religion. And it made me realize when I'd get to certain parts of the Quran, like chapter 5, verse 32, about the, you know, killing all humanity and stuff. When I would get to that, and it would, you know, I'm not a very intellectual person, but it made a light bulb come on. It's like, wait a minute. Okay, this is their book, and you're supposed to live as closely to the teachings as you can, right? That's the goal. I'm thinking, okay, well, my experience with Muslims is the ones that were shooting at me. But I seen what they did, and I saw how they acted. These people here in Muncie are acting a lot better. They're acting closer to what it says here in the book. Not perfect, but they're acting closer to it. And then I would go on about learning, about, you know, how God made us into different nations and tribes so we can learn from one another. And then I get to the very end, Surah Al-Kafirun. And it talks about two people that disagree. You go your way, I go mine. You're never going to believe the way I believe, and I'll never believe the way you believe. They could have added something in there. So what? Right? That's coexistence. That's exactly what Al-Kafirun talks about, is coexistence. And that's when things for me started to really turn around. Because I had that knowledge with the physical treatment from the community. And it all made sense then. And that's when I realized I was wrong about everything I thought. Absolutely wrong. And I was about ready to commit one of the most heinous crimes known to probably Indiana, if not the nation, because I was ignorant.
Thank you. And this coexistence is such a beautiful word to end the event. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Great.
Jim? Sure.